Hey everybody, it's Sarah Zalecki. Welcome, guys. I am super excited today because I wanted to share with you guys a really important topic that has actually just been on my mind for the last, probably the last couple weeks. And if you're anything like me, building a business is fun, but also building a business is a little bit tough sometimes. And we all know that it's all about, becoming a leader and developing leaders and all that good stuff. And I will tell you, for myself, for quite a while, I felt like I was leading and nobody was listening. And I know a lot of you guys can probably relate to that. And I want to share with you guys just some things that really helped me as I was kind of figuring that out and just helping you guys have a fresh perspective. And quite frankly, just to be encouraged as we talk about this topic. And so even before I go into this topic, guys, I want to tell you guys a story about a girl. Yes, the story is about me. And about 5.5 years ago, when I had a chance to be a part of this incredible, this brand new movement, right? And when I had a chance to be a part of a brand new company, and I will tell you, I'll never forget. I made my way to Salt Lake City, Utah, and I was actually up there working and doing some great things with my company. And when I was up there, my business partner, Justin Prince, a lot of you guys know who that is. We were actually up there, and we were just starting, right? We were just starting out. We were just starting this business, kind of just getting our feet wet, super excited, had a lot of enthusiasm, but we were kind of what we call grinding. I mean, we were working hard in this business. And I'll never forget, we were doing these daily calls, right? And we were doing these daily calls, and we called it becoming brilliant on the basics, and we were doing the do, right? And I know a lot of you guys can relate to that. We were doing the do. We were, working, doing the daily disciplines of our business, right? And we were working it. And I'll never forget, because I learned that whether I was in an audience of one or none, that I was the same whether I was in an audience of 1,000 people, right? And this particular day was no different. And I'll never forget, I remember we were doing the call, and I was so, Justin and I, we were actually doing the call together. And when we were doing this call, guys, it was so funny, because I really wish I had this on video now, because it was so crazy. But so I was introducing everyone, and I was like, hi everyone, it's Sarah Zalecki. Want to welcome you to the Brilliant on the Basics call. If you're just joining us, feel free to announce yourself and tell us where you're calling in from, right? And I'll never forget, I did that call, and there was nobody, guys. There was nobody on the call. It was I was super excited, really peppy, and I was like, announce yourself, and it was crickets. Right? I mean, it was like crickets. You could hear the pin drop. And I was like, okay. And I was like, all right. And it was funny, because Justin Prince and I, we were actually in the same room, right? We were in this little office. There was 2 desks. I was on one side. He was on the other side. And we were just doing it, right? And so I was doing the introduction. Again, hey everyone, it's Sarah Zalecki. Want to welcome you to the, Brilliant on the Basics call. If you're just joining us, let us know where you're calling in from, right? And it was nothing. It was nothing again. It was dead silent. And I remember looking at him, and I was like, I'm just going to do this, right? I'm just going to do this. And I kept going, and I remember I repeated myself probably for about 5 minutes, guys, and there was nobody there. But I was still excited, still had that enthusiasm. And I'll never forget, when I had to turn the call over to him, I remember I just said, I had a chance to edify him, right? And build him up a little bit. And I turned the call over to him, and he knew too, there was nobody on this call, right? There was nobody on there. But, I turned it over to him, and I was like, hey, go get him, right? And he did. And we both went back and forth, and we did this call. And guess what, guys? There was nobody on this call. We were doing this call for ourselves. Nobody, zilch, zero, whatever. We were leading no one. No one was listening, right? And I'll never forget, oh my gosh, there was a number of times that happened in my business early on. And I just remember so many times where I'm just gosh, this is so crazy, right? And some of you guys can relate to that, where you're oh my gosh, I feel like I'm talking to myself, right? I feel like I'm talking to like no one. Like this is crazy, like what is happening in my business right now. And I want to share with you guys something that's super important, okay? So I'm actually going to give you 3 tips today, but before I do that, I want to talk to you about the middle of our business. Okay. So early on in our business, just like a book, right? Just like a good book, you've got a beginning, middle, and an end, right? And in the beginning of our book, right, it's exciting, right? We think about the beginning of our business, right? The excitement, how fun it is, the enthusiasm, what have you, right? And then in the middle, I tell people, like, the middle is where it gets messy. The middle is where it gets confusing. The middle is where it gets mucked up. The middle is where it's hard, right? And I think it's so important for all of us to realize, guys, that the middle is what builds us. Okay? The middle is what builds us. So leading when no one is listening, that's the middle. That's the middle part of our business, right? One of the things that I wrote down in my notes is that this is so cool, guys, for the taking notes. It's in the middle that it's where we discover what's in the middle of us. It's in the middle, right? The middle of the book that we discover what's in the middle of us. So for those of you that are like, I feel like I'm leading, no one's listening, know that you're in the middle, right? In the middle, right? The middle is what builds us. And so I always tell people, think about a book, right? Imagine in a book if the whole middle was left out, right? If the whole middle of the book, right? If we skipped all the stories of that book, right? There would be no real content, right? There wouldn't be anything. And I think that it's important for us to realize, like, the whole middle piece of it, those stories, right? Our stories are what help people, right? As silly as this sounds today, I kind of wrote some of the verbiage in these words for you guys to understand, but like the stories of our life, right? The stories of what builds us, the middle of it, right? Those help people, right? All the pages of our lives help people create confidence, right? Just inspire people. And I think too, guys, what's important for us to realize is that all the good stuff, right, that we're given in the beginning of our business, right? All the excitement, what's possible, what have you, those things are meant to kind of like help sustain us through the middle, through the middle piece of it. I think it's so important. So I want to give you guys a couple of tips, okay, that I want to share with you. But I also want you guys to realize too, okay, in the middle, when you feel like no one's listening, in the middle, when you feel like you're like doing the do and no one's hearing you, it's important for you guys to realize this. I wrote this down. Don't allow the middle to intimidate you. Somebody needs to hear that right now. All the crap that you're going through, do not let don't let that, right? Don't let that intimidate you. Don't let that make you feel alone. Don't let that make you feel weary or disillusioned about your business, right? Just because, somebody else needs to hear this right now. Just because there is a pause, okay? I just got chills. Just because there is a pause in your story does not mean that's the ending. Just because there's a pause right now, guys. There might be a pause happening and you're panicking and you're wondering and no one's following me and what's going on, right? That does not mean it's the ending, okay? One of the very best quotes that I wrote down that I live my truth and it helps me so much. Just because, guys, there is a delay in your success. Just because there is a delay in your success does not mean it's a denial. Just because there's a delay, it is not a denial. Someone needs to hear that today, right? We're going through the middle and it feels mucky and we can't see and it seems cloudy and we're leading and we're doing what we need to be doing and we're listening to our mentors and our upline, right? But we're still not there yet. And we're like, oh my gosh, why can't I have somebody else's story? Why can't I be at the end of the book, right? Remember, all the middle is what builds us, right? All the middle is the juicy part of the book, right? All the real contents of the book, right? So in the middle, a lot of times when we're in the middle, guys, it's the we don't feel like it mode, right? And I tell people, when we're in kind of like the familiar part of our business, guys, that's where we're being the most tested, right? When we feel like we're doing the same thing day in and day out of our business, right? And we're feeling like we get bored, right? But I tell people, guys, the part when it's familiar, right? You feel like, we feel like we're doing the same thing. We're talking to people. We're connecting people to the tools. We're doing three-way chats or calls. We're getting people started. Like we feel like that's just like the same old, right? Or maybe we're not getting people signed up in the business yet. And we're talking to people and talking to people and talking to people. Like we're so familiar with it. Like that's where we're getting tested, right? But guys, I think what I want you guys to understand is like that part is so important in our business. It's so important in our business, okay? So the first tip I want to tell you guys is this. Number one, be prepared, okay? What does that mean? Be prepared. Get in shape, right? Get in shape for your business. Sharpen your saws. Make sure that you're doing the do, that you're doing a great job of talking about the products, that you're doing a great job of using the tools, that you're doing a great job of getting better every day, right? How prepared are you for when people do say yes and you do have people to lead? Are you ready, right? Are you ready to lead, right? People talk about, I want to lead. And then when it happens, they're like, oh crap, I'm not ready, right? So number one, be prepared, right? Be prepared to lead. And I think what's important too with be prepared, guys, is know yourself, right? You got to dig deep. You got to know you. You got to know, make your value, your values visible to the world out there. So when people do show up, like you're ready to go, right? You got to be ready to go. So number one, be prepared. Number two, be persistent, right? Be persistent, not just patient. Do you know how many calls that I did like that I shared early on in my business that nobody was there? A lot. But I was still persistent, right? I had to learn how to power up and get strong and just keep going and knowing that this is my middle, this is my middle, this is my middle, right? And being okay with that. Another note that I wrote down is this. Your perseverance in the business will become someone else's provision. Powerful. Your perseverance, guys, will become someone else's provision. What does that mean? That means like you keep going, you keep going, you keep going. When people sign up in the business, guess what? You're going to provide them with a better way. You get to be the one that does it, right? If you persevere, but if you don't, right? You don't have that opportunity. So it inspires me to go, Sarah, keep persevering because, oh my gosh, think about the provision that you get to give to so many people. And guys, what I promise you is that your audience of 0 that right now that you're feeling, or maybe just a couple or whatever it is, I promise you it will turn into the thousands, right? It will turn into the thousands and thousands and thousands. And I've been so blessed. I've had a chance to experience that. So many other people have as well in this profession, right? Number 3, when you are going through your middle, okay, words matter more. We need to learn to manage our mouth as we're in the middle. I needed to hear that. Words matter more, right? Manage our mouths, right? When we are in the middle. So one thing too, guys, I wrote down, a lot of times when we're in the middle, people come into your life to make their problems your problems. So you have to learn how to guard your environment, right? And learning how to don't forget, I tell people, in the beginning of our business, we have these really clear commitments, right? And sometimes things get when we get distracted or we get disillusioned or we get weary or we feel like we're alone or we're in the middle and we feel intimidated, right? When we're going through all that stuff, we forget our clear commitments. And all of a sudden what happens is then all of a sudden, we start talking about maybe this doesn't work. Maybe I can't do this. Maybe I'm not cut out for it. Oh my gosh, no one is following me. What's wrong with me? I've been doing the do, right? Sometimes guys, some of us, we just got to do the do longer. That's all. I had to do it for a long time. But once I really grasped these tips, it really helped me. Once I grasped oh my gosh, the middle is a really good place for me to be. The middle is what made me who I am today, right? And learn to just embrace the middle, right? Versus going, oh my gosh, why can't I just be at the end? Because the end, you have no story then. The end, you don't have a story that inspires people. The end, you don't have a story that gets people excited, moves them into action, gets them to say yes, gets them to keep going, right? I mean, who wants a boring story? People want to know the ebbs and flows, what you went through when you kept doing stuff when no one did things, right? There was times that I had meetings and I drove 3 hours and there was one person that sat in a chair and I still spoke to him even though there was 80 chairs set up in the room. You know what I'm saying? Like that was a lot of my middle, but I was okay with that, right? But I really learned how to manage my mouth. And I was careful of the self-talk and what I even spoke out to anybody else. That's when I knew when I was in the middle, I needed to close my mouth more than anything, right? That was the time that I had to be super duper careful, right? Of everything that I thought, everything that I spoke to myself and to other people, right? So here's the thing I want you guys to understand. A couple of things. There is no mediocrity in the middle, okay? So what does that mean? A lot of us, we have like these go-to settings, right? The moaning, the groaning, the what have you, right? We just push a button. It's like go to this, go to that, go to this, right? Go to criticizing, go to moaning, go to complaining, go to whatever it may be, right? So I ask you this, when that happens, like what's our response, right? What's our first response? Is it shaped by doubt? I wrote down, is it shaped by disappointment? Is it shaped by mistrust? Like, is it the stuff in the past, right? And we immediately, it's our go-to setting, right? Is that what we're doing? And I wrote down here, is it cynical? Is it critical? Is it negative? Is it prideful, right? What's our first response to stuff when we're in the middle, right? What is that response? So I wrote down, do we need to learn how to be better equipped as a first responder, right? What's our first response? Do we need to learn how to be better equipped that way, right? And the ways that we can be better equipped is what we talked about, right? Being prepared, being persistent, right? Powering up, making sure our words matter, right? Learning to fall in love with the middle and knowing that the middle is what builds us. Here's my last thing I want to share with you guys. Guess what? This is what's cool. All the miracles happen in the middle. Every miracle happens in the middle. It doesn't happen at the beginning. It doesn't happen at the end. It happens in the middle. So if we want these amazing miracles to show up in our life, right? Whatever they are, personal, business, whatever it is, right? Understand it's the middle, right? It's the middle. So be okay when you're in the middle. When you're in the middle, instead of freaking out, I want you guys to be like, oh my God, this is so exciting. I'm in the middle, right? I'm in the middle. Like if you had a different perspective of that, like right now, guys, I can tell you, I'm in the middle right now. Like I'm in the middle. The last 2-3 weeks for me, I've been in the middle. I've been in the muck. I've actually wanted to do a post on this, but man, thank God I did a video on this. But I've been in the middle. And I just was like, there was a couple of days that I was down in the dumps. And then I was like, Sarah, like you talk about this. Like, I got to remind you, you're in the middle right now. So be encouraged and know like, oh my gosh, like what do I need to learn from this? I got to power up. I got to arm myself. I got to speak good words to myself. I got to get prepared. I got to sharpen my saw more. You got to get ready and be prepared for when you do lead. Right? Because we want you guys to go out there and lead in a really big way. So guys, hopefully you guys got some great nuggets out of this stuff. I love you guys. Let's make it a great, great week together. But just know that if you feel like you're alone, just know that you're in the middle and you just got to you don't need to do anything different. Okay. Some of you guys are going, what do I need to do different? You don't need to do anything different. Keep doing the daily disciplines. The thing is that you're in the middle. So if you keep doing the daily disciplines, do what you need to do, you're going to get there. Don't look left, right. Try to find something else. Keep going. Like stay with what you're doing and just power through it. And I promise you that your miracle is in the middle. So love you guys. Have a great one. And we'll talk to you soon. Take care.